here we go now. Hey, put your name on here. You guys are going to turn this in. This is going to be an assignment. It's actually going to be worth more than an assignment because it's a lot more problems than an assignment. It is currently second hour. Okay, so this is our types of factoring organizer. We have learned 5 ways to factor. 5.1 was just combining like terms. 5.2 was adding and subtracting. 5.3 and 5.4 were all multiplying. Everything 5.5 and beyond has been factoring. Things that you need to know about all types of factoring. This isn't factoring. Things you need to know about multiplying. When we multiply our coefficients and add our exponents. But when we factor things out, we divide our coefficients and subtract our exponents. So those are like the opposite of each other. And then this last thing here, if we ever need to combine like terms, you add your coefficients and your exponents stay the same. The first method of factoring we learned in 5.5 was greatest common factor. You use this only if there is a common factor between all of the terms. So there is something that we can divide all 3 of these terms by. And if we can do that, we factor the greatest common factor out. So in this one here that we're going to do together, we've got 12, 16, and 8. What can I divide 12, 16, and 8 all by? Yeah, 4. Then I've got x to the 4th, x to the 3rd, and x to the imaginary 1st. How many x's can I factor out? Just 1. So my greatest common factor here is 4x to the 1st. I'm just going to put that in front of parentheses. Any questions about finding that greatest common factor? Okay, so then we are going to factor that out. When we do, we are dividing our coefficients and subtracting our exponents. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. I subtract my exponents. 4 minus 1 is 3. Then I've got negative 16 divided by 4, which is negative 4. Subtract my exponents. 3 minus 1 is 2. So I've got x squared. And then 8 divided by 4 is 2. I subtract my exponents. 1 minus 1 is none. There are no x's left. Okay. On this factoring organizer, we are also going to use it to review multiplying, and we are going to multiply out to check all of our answers today. So how we do that is we take what we just did and we distribute it back out. So 4 times 3 is 12. I add my exponents. 1 plus 3 is 4. So I've got 12x to the 4th. 4 times negative 4 is negative 12. Nope, I'm wrong. What is it? Yeah. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. 1 plus 2 is 3. And then my last piece, 4 times 2 is 8. 1 plus none is x to the 1st. It's still 1. Okay, then we can look back that what I started with, I factored out, and then I multiplied it back together, and it's back to what I started with. So we're using that to check ourselves. Okay, we are going to give you about 3 minutes to attempt the next problem. Hello, welcome back to my recording. Okay, 5.6. 5.6 we used for factoring quadratic trinomials. So degree of 2, 3 terms with no number in front of x squared. So there's technically an imaginary 1 here. But this is what you can do if it's just 1x squared or there's no number in front of x squared. What we are doing is always finding 2 numbers that multiply to the last and add to the middle number. We have a table back in 5.6 notes, and then you see it again in 5.9 notes, and then it'll be on your note card and it'll be on your review. That helps us know what types of numbers we need to multiply to, or what types of numbers, positive or negative, we need to use. So for this first one, I'm going to use my magic X, even though we didn't start using that until 5.9, because I kind of forget about it every year. We are trying to multiply to our last number, which is negative 48. Whoop, negative 48. What are we trying to add to? Negative 2. Yep, so we are trying to add to negative 2. So we're trying to multiply to negative 48. We're trying to add to negative 2. I'm going to make that negative 48 look more like a negative 48. Okay. Any questions about finding that fact of what we're trying to do? Okay. It is completely up to you. Some people are going to want to list out all their factors. Some people are not going to want to. If you want to list out all your factors, you can. Let's go ahead and do it on this one just in case you want to. My factors are 1 and 48, 2 and 24, yes. 3 and 16, yep. 4 and 12. 5 doesn't work. I know 5 doesn't work. 6 and 8. And then I know 7 doesn't work. Okay, so if you want to list all your factors, go for it. If you want to use the magic X, go for it. Do whatever you need to do. If you need to use the table, use it. Lots of methods, lots of different brains work different ways, so do what you need to do. Now, we want to pick ones that are going to multiply to negative 48 and add to negative 2. If I know I want to multiply to be negative, one number is going to need to be negative. If I want to also add to be negative, I want to make the bigger ones negative. So I'm going to go make all the big guys negative. So that whole right column, since I did them in order. Which of those pairs now adds to negative 2? 6 and negative 8, because 6 minus 8 is negative 2. Awesome. How we write our answer? 2 sets of parentheses, x plus 6, x minus 8. Okay, so use the magic X, use your factor list, use neither, use both. I don't care. Use a multiplication table, use your calculator. Find a way that works for you to be able to find those two numbers that multiply to the last and add to the middle. We're going to check this one real quick. So I'm going to rewrite it just so I have it like fresh here. X plus 6 times x minus 8. And I am just going to do the distributing because I think that's what most of us like to do. If you want to do the little 2x2 tables, you can do that as well. X times x is x squared. So I add my imaginary ones. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. 6 times x is 6x. And 6 times negative 8 is negative 48. Any questions about the multiplying? Okay, so then what do I need to do? Combine like terms. So my x squared will stay the same. Negative 8x plus 6x is negative 2x. And then I still have my minus 48. Oh my gosh, guys, that's the problem we started with. We're undoing the work we just did. All right, I am going to pause my recording and give... Hey, so 5.7 is difference of squares. It happens, or we use it when we have two terms. So it's still a quadratic second degree, but it's only a binomial. We just don't have that middle term. So it's just the x squared and the number. Two terms, they both have to be perfect squares. So if we have two things that are perfect squares and it's a difference, a subtraction, that's why it's called difference of squares, because it's subtraction of two perfect squares, then if we can find a and b, our factor version is a plus b and a minus b. So right here, 9x squared, what number times itself is 9? 3. Okay, and then x squared is x times x. So we also need an x with that. So I'm just going to put a little note to myself with my 3x over there. Then what number times itself is 49? Yeah, 7. So we have to find those two things, square root of 9x squared, square root of 49. And then our answer is just 3x plus 7 times 3x minus 7. So 1 plus, 1 minus. Okay, once again, we're going to multiply this guy out. 3x plus 7 times 3x minus 7. I don't know why I like rewriting it. I don't like multiplying on that. So 3x times 3x. 3 times 3 is 9. I add my exponent, so I've got my imaginary ones. 1 plus 1 is 2. 9x squared. Then I have 3x to the first times negative 7. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21, and I still have my x to the first. On the last one, a lot of people were losing that x. Okay. Then I need to multiply my 7 by everybody. 7 times 3x to the first. 7 times 3 is 21, and I still have my x to the first. And then 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. When I go combine like terms, what happens? What disappears? Yeah, so the negative 21 and the positive 21 cancel each other out. They disappear. So I just have 9x squared minus 49, which is the original problem I was trying to factor. Okay. Yeah, it's worth doing a brain explosion. Okay, I'm going to pause the video. Hey, next method, I said math instead of method. Next method of factoring that we learned was factoring by grouping. Factoring by grouping can only be used when we have 4 terms. It's called grouping because we do it in 2 groups. So we factor the GCF out of the first 2 guys. We factor the GCF out of the last 2 guys. And then what's left behind should be matching. And we write the matching part as one factor, and then our 2 GCFs as the other. So let's do this, and then we'll see the matching. Out of 2x cubed and 6x squared, what can I divide 2 and 6 both by? 2. Awesome. How many x's can I take out? 2. So 2x squared is my first GCF. So out of 2x cubed, I'm going to divide out that 2x squared. 2 divided by 2 is just 1. And then 3 minus 2 is also just 1. So you can write 1x to the first. You can write x. You can write 1x. You can write x to the first. Any of those options are the same. It's just like we can add in those imaginary ones. We can also take them out. Okay. 6x squared divided by 2 is 3. So the 6 divided by 2 is the 3, and then x squared, factor out both of them. There are no more x's left. So I've got 1x plus 3 in that set of parentheses. Okay. My next group, what can I divide 3 and 9 both by? 3. I want to leave behind a positive x and a positive 3, though. So what do I need to divide by? Negative 3. If your third term is negative, you can use a negative GCF. That is the only time you will get to use a negative GCF. Don't ever use a negative GCF on a just GCF problem, and don't ever use a negative GCF for your first term. It's just going to give you way more negatives than you want to deal with. Negative 3x divided by negative 3 leaves behind just the x. Negative 9 divided by negative 3 leaves behind positive 3. Okay, from here, we are able to see that's what is left behind is matching. So yeah, we have our imaginary ones here, and we don't here, but they mean the same thing. Okay? So we just need to know that like 1x is x. X to the first is x. So my first set of parentheses, I've got x plus 3. And then my other set of parentheses is my two GCFs. So I've got this 2x squared and this minus 3. So 2x squared minus 3. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Like always, we are going to multiply them out on today's assignment. And again, the multiplying is part of the assignment because we're reviewing multiplying. So, like, we want you to do that. So I'm going to rewrite it because I always rewrite it. Okay. X times 2x squared. I've got an imaginary 1 there. I can add my exponents. So I've got 2x to the third. X to the first times negative 3 is negative 3x to the first. 3 times 2x squared. 3 times 2 is 6, and I still have my x squared. And then 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Okay. Is there anything that can be combined? Am I done? Read through the answer and see if you... What's up? You have to reorder it. So we want to put our leave our 2x cubed first, and then we want to put our 6x squared next, and then our minus 3x, and then our minus 9. Because we want it to be in standard form, so we need to just flip-flop those two middle terms. You can't combine them, but you need to flip-flop them. All right, I'm going to pause my recording. We are doing great on time. Yes, okay, so the big boxes, we don't actually need that much space. It's just, I have the whole page, so I just made the boxes that big. And sometimes I write huge. So, factoring quadratics part 2. This is what we did yesterday. So it's freshest in your mind, but it was also the most challenging part, and there's lots of different pieces. So, first thing that we need to know is we use it when there's 3 terms and we've got that number in front. So this, we would have just done 5.6 with. Now that we've got that there, we have to do more. We're going to find 2 numbers that multiply to AC and add to B. So we can label A, B, and C. What is my A times C in this problem? 12 times negative 5. Any questions about finding A and C and multiplying them together? Okay. 12 times negative 5 is negative 60. Okay, I'm going to make my X. I need to multiply to negative 60. What am I trying to add to? Negative 4. I'm trying to add to negative 4. Okay, over on the side here, because 60 is such a big number, I'm going to list all my factors out. They are 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, 7, 8, 9 don't work. Okay, so there are all my factors. And again, you don't have to list them if you don't want to, if you can figure it out without them. If I need to multiply to be a negative and add to be a negative, I want 1 to be negative and I want my bigger ones to be negative. I'm going to make my bigger guys negative. Okay. Which of these guys add together to be negative 4? So, yeah, 6 and negative 10. So I'm going to put a 6 here and a negative 10 here. Okay. a few things. If you on your test can only do that and you can't go any further, we can still give you points for that. If you on your test do this wrong and then you try to do the next step and you do something correct in the next step, we can give you points for that. So if you are not able to get your 5.9s all the way done, still do them the best of your ability. And then even if you know you get stuck and you give up, don't erase everything. Because if you erase everything, I can't see it and I can't give you any partial credit. But if you leave whatever hot mess you have, I bet I can find some points in there that some part of that hot mess is correct. The other thing that we are willing to do on sections like 5.9 is I'm willing to help you get unstuck on your test. I'm not going to come up to you and walk you through every single problem, but when you're sitting here and you have all of your factors and you're like sitting there adding them and you know what you're supposed to be doing, you just forgot one set of factors, I can help you with that. You just have your negative wrong and you know as you're factoring by grouping, something's going weird, I can help you with that. So I can help you get unstuck. I just can't do it all for you, okay? So if you're on the test and you're like, my negatives are messed up somewhere and you can verbalize and show that to me, I can help you be like, oh yeah, negative times a negative, that should have been positive, and then you're good to go. All right, we are going to continue on with this one. I'm going to rewrite the original problem down here, just because it's way up there. So that way I can scoot my page down now. So, now that I have picked 6 and negative 10, I am splitting up my middle term. So my 12x squared stays. I split up my middle term, and instead of minus 4x, I now have plus 6x minus 10x. And then I also have my minus 5 still. Okay, the reason why we split up is because we now can do grouping. So, out of 12x squared and 6x, what can I divide 12 and 6 both by? That is a common factor. 6 is the greatest common factor. So we've got 6, and then we can also pull out just one x, so I've got 6x to the first here. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. So I've got 2x to the first. Okay. I like that this is happening right here. 6x to the first divided by 6x to the first. 6 divided by 6 is, and x to the first, we factor it out. It's gone, but there's still a 1 there. Don't leave an x there. People have been leaving an x there for some reason. If you think about it, anything divided by itself, so 6x to the first divided by 6x to the first is 1. Okay, what can I divide 10 and 5 both by? But I need to leave behind positives, and my first, second, third term is negative. If your third term is negative, that's the only time you're going to use a negative GCF, is for that second GCF. So I'm going to divide out negative 5. Negative 10x divided by negative 5 is 2x. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is positive 1. Okay. What's left behind in parentheses matches. That is good. So we're going to put down what's left behind in parentheses, 2x plus 1. And then the other piece of my answer, so that was what matched, is this 6x and this minus 5. And again, you can leave and take off as many of those imaginary ones as you want. It's completely up to you. Okay. Before we multiply this guy back out, any questions? Okay. So, we are going to take 2x plus 1 and multiply it by 6x minus 5. We have 2 times 6 to be 12. And then we add our exponents. 1 plus 1 is 2. So I've got 12x squared. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. I have my x to the first. One times 6 is 6, and I have my x to the first. And 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. Okay. Last combining like terms, my 12x squared stays. I've got negative 10x plus 6x. Those can combine together. I owe you 10, I only pay you 6 back. I still owe you 4. And I've got my minus 5. And then you can go back and check. That's the original problem we had. So you always want to make sure that if you're going to use multiplication to check, you do that. Also, if you made it here into the video and you're actually listening, you get to hear this, and I'm telling you guys right now. On your test, there is a section where you match between these guys and these guys. So you can choose, and I think it's actually like more like the 5.61, so it's like easier to do in your head. You can choose whether you want to factor to get to the like if you want to factor out this to match it to this, or if you want to multiply out this to match it to that, or by like do both to check yourself. So just by the way, there's a little section of matching that is that. Okay. Here is the plan for the rest of class. It is 49, so we have 40 minutes left. You guys have one more problem to do here. Then, on the back of this, if you haven't already seen it, there are 10 problems. We are going to give you extra credit for these 10 problems. If you are done with everything, you should attempt as many of these as possible. If you are not done with everything, you may make a choice of whether you want to get a little bit of practice of everything and you'll still get credit for these, or whether you want to go work on something else. So if you want to get that one 5.9 inside done and then work on some of these, you can. Do whatever. We'll check as we go. Linnea, once they've done as much as they want on this, just stick it in the bin. Don't put a score on it, because with the extra credit and the checking, star them, but don't put like a 10 out of 10 or anything, because I'm going to calculate the extra credit. These are all mixed up. So we'll go through. If you want to go through and do the ones that you know how to do and maybe skip over the 5.9s. And then the last thing is, there is not a lot of space on here. So if you are someone who's still doing 1,000 pieces of work, you are not going to have space to do all of 5.9. If you're a person that can just do that, you'll have that much space. So it depends on how much workspace you need, okay? But if you want to attach another sheet of paper and turn it in with it, you're more than welcome to. On these guys, you do need to multiply back out to check all the ones inside that we did together and the ones that you do on your own. These guys, do not multiply these back out to check, unless you want to, but you don't need to for points. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to stop this video. I wanted to record that so people who are working on it at home could know.